So I finally finished playing Shadow of the Colossus for the first time, and I have quite a few thoughts on it. A lot of people that love this game refer to how revolutionary it was at the specific time that it came out, but I was still 2 years old back then. So I think I can gauge how this game has aged a lot better since I'm kind of a zoomer. I'm not trying to take away from anything that the game has accomplished, but simply trying to provide my uneducated but enthusiastic opinion. Now, I do want to preface this by saying I did play the game on normal difficulty, and I'm assuming that was the intended experience for players. And I also played the 2018 remake on the PS4. So, do I think the game is good? The short answer is definitely yes, I do. There are so many ideas in this game that I think have aged very well, and the game does certain things way better than most AAA titles today. But the game also has a lot of shortcomings and some that I feel like a lot of people don't even talk about. But let's go piece by piece. I just want to start off by saying that the art direction of this game is masterful. I don't think you can really ask for more when it comes to visuals. Obviously, consoles and game creation tools were not as robust back in the day as they are now. So the fact that the original creators were able to create such an expansive and breathtaking world in 2005 honestly has me floored. And with how washed out all the colors are, the 2018 graphics just feel extremely surreal. Everything from the land, to the characters, to the castle, feels so familiar and foreign at the same time. You have these massive natural landmarks and breathtaking views, but they're so hauntingly empty that they leave you wondering where on earth you are. The entire thing just feels dreamlike. I love it. I also have to give massive props to the environment team. Everything about the map of this game is just so perfectly done. I've never seen a map that is so empty yet so detailed at the same time. It's incredible. For some reason, I was expecting every Colossus fight to just be in an empty open field, and to my surprise, most Colossi got their own specific and beautiful fighting locations, which I think added so much to the game. The world just felt a little more rich and expansive with every single Colossus I took on. Now we're jumping straight into the heat of the conversation with the game, the controls. Personally, I think the controls are actually pretty great, and I have no idea what everyone else is talking about. I will agree that I was a little confused at first when I tried riding aggro, and the controls just didn't seem to make any sense. But the thing is, the controls, at least the modern 2018 ones, I don't know about how the legacy ones work, make perfect sense to me. The only problem is that they're not intuitive at all. Which may sound like I'm being hypocritical, but hear me out. Tapping a triangle while steering left and right with the analog stick is a lot more true to what horse riding is actually like than just holding your joystick forward. And I think going for that more emulative control system is a perfectly rational decision on the developer's end. I mean, think about it. If this game controlled like God of War or GTA, it just wouldn't hit the same. The reality is that the game is just a bunch of jumping, climbing, and stabbing. And if those things came to us naturally, this game would be an absolute snooze fest, and I mean that in the best way possible. Everything that I did felt more intentional and earned because the controls were working against me. Am I going to pretend that the clunkiness never annoyed me a bit? Of course not. But I really do think that it's essential to the experience of this game. You always feel a little out of control. And I think that's necessary, and I think that's okay. These controls are a breath of fresh air in today's gaming landscape, and they make a case for how something as simple as controls can add to the feel and narrative of a video game story. Most of the Colossus designs were outstanding, and I think the sheer scale of some of these were incredible. I think my favorite Colossi were Phalanx and Gaius. I think the fights for them felt really action-packed and interesting. I didn't feel like I was standing around waiting for the AI to respond to what I was doing. And I really wish I could say that for all of the Colossi. But unfortunately, I can't. For starters, I was extremely underwhelmed by Colossi 11 and 14. I want to fight huge scary earth creatures, not overgrown animals. What didn't help is that these fights were boring and similar to each other. The game is at its best when you feel like a small grain of sand against the ocean that is the Colossi. And the smaller Colossi kind of took me out of that and honestly felt like a waste of my time. I think the game would be better if it just cut from 16 to 12 Colossi instead. And I know that the game already had countless Colossi removed before the final release. But some of the vaulted designs are far more interesting than the ones that actually made it into the game. The gameplay is a real mixed bag for me, and I think it's the part of the game that has suffered the most over time. While I do like the clunky controls, I do feel like some of the game mechanics are harder than they should be. I just feel like there are so many tiny issues with this game which, if removed, would make the entire playing experience so much better. Sometimes you respawn all the way back in the original temple if you die. Like, leading up to the fight with Malice, I had no idea you had to clear the jump with aggro, and I died quite a few times because of that, which would mean that I would have to travel all the way from the castle back to the Malice fight location, and it honestly took me out of the entire playing experience because I was so excited to fight the final Colossus, but I kept dying before I could get to him. Some of the Colossus fight systems don't make any sense either. When fighting the final Colossus, there's a point in the fight where you have to stab Malice's hand, even though there isn't an indicator or a weak point there to trigger an animation that lets you progress. This just left me dying and losing progress multiple times, cause I just never saw the reason to do this. I don't mind difficulty in games, but I want to die because of my lack of skill, not because the game doesn't make any goddamn sense. Colossus number 8 was another fight that left me scratching my head. To beat this Colossus, you had to shoot sacks on its legs to weaken it and stop it from moving. How am I supposed to know that? The amount of time I spent trying to sneak onto its belly through one of the openings is ridiculous. If the sacks emitted some sort of blue light, then I probably would have been able to figure it out. But there was no mention of sacks at any point in the game up until this fight, and this ended up being the first Colossus that I had to watch a guide for because I was just so confused. The entire thing with this game is that it's supposed to be an action fighting game, while also simultaneously being a puzzle game. Usually, games will have a puzzle first, which you have to solve in order to get to the boss fight. And then you just spam square until you win. What's so special about Shadow of the Colossus is that it tries to combine these two things into one experience. The boss that you need to spam square against is the puzzle that you need to solve. But I think they leaned far too much into the puzzle side of things, and I feel that way because of the lack of danger in this game. The ridiculous heights I've been flung off of just to take a morsel of damage is ridiculous. And I know what you're thinking. If you died super easily, the game would be unnecessarily frustrating. And that's true, but what we have right now is basically just you gallivanting around these massive creatures without any real fear of dying, and that's not fun. I was never really that afraid of failing because of how long your grip lasts, only running out of grip once on the Malice fight. Perhaps I would feel differently if I played this game on hard difficulty, but I don't think that's a valid defense for how the overall pacing of the gameplay itself is. Admittedly, the game is at its best when you're being flung around on these massive beasts, just slowly crawling towards the weak point to get that final hit. But I feel like sometimes you're just puppeteering the Colossus AI to get to those absolutely euphoric moments of gameplay that are so short-lived. I honestly don't think much even needs to be said about the story of this game. It's a simple but effective story that leaves a lot up to the imagination, and I think that's a really good thing. Most AAA games these days lack a healthy amount of mystery. They try to squeeze in way too much lore in the form of letters, or readable items, or audio logs, or other dumb stuff like that. And while I guess that's cool and all, I honestly think that most of that stuff is a waste of time. I'm sorry, but I don't want to read exposition while I'm playing a video game. And Shadow of the Colossus understands that. The lore of the game is all visual. The story lies not in the moments of dialogue, but in its moments of silence. The ambiguity and mystery behind the game is so well constructed that people spent so long digging up every last drop of information they could about this game, only to realize that there was indeed no final 17th Colossus. And I think it's a testament to the game's storytelling and world-building ability that almost everybody is left with this unshakable feeling that there's still something left to discover in this game. Look, if you can get me to fall in love with the horse that is extremely frustrating to handle sometimes, you're probably doing something right. Also, side note, did anybody think Agor's name was Ablo? I thought he was screaming Ablo this entire time. No one? Yeah, okay, I figured. Just me. What makes this game so special is that it understands that gameplay is something that needs to be in service of the story, rather than something that is intermittently spliced in between moments of exposition to get you to a credit screen. My gripes with the gameplay are things that I can overlook any day in the face of what this game gets right. Shadow of the Colossus, especially the 2018 remake, is definitely going to be a timeless classic, but most importantly, Shadow of the Colossus reminds me that video games in the right hands can and will be pieces of art.